Alright, in this video we're going to go over key lock and Kimura from side control. So this is the side control position, and it's a dominant position that allows you to not only set up submissions, but you can also strike effectively with the upper body and lower body. So in this case, the individual in blue is setting up a key lock, so he's pinning the victim's arm down. So the lady in white, he's going to pin her arm down. He's going to slide this other free arm underneath and connect his hand to his wrist. Once he gets his hands connected, he's going to lift up on the elbow and then drag her knuckles towards her hip. And what this will do is it'll place stress on the shoulder girdle and the elbow. So you're attacking those joints, and it's not going to necessarily break the arm, but it's going to damage ligaments, and there's a lot more pain receptors in the ligaments, so people tend to respond much faster to joint manipulation when it involves damaging or tearing the ligaments away from where they're attached at. The reason that's bad is you can break a bone, and of course that's going to be painful, but it's going to be much more painful if you tear the ligaments away or encapsulate the joint capsule, where you actually bust open the joint capsule. That would have to be surgically repaired. You can set bones depending on how severely they're broken. If it's really severe, surgery may be necessary, but in most cases the bones could be set if it was a simple fracture. But if you've torn ligaments away from where they're attached, those have to be surgically repaired. Anyway, and the individual wouldn't be able to use that arm against you. You may have seen cases where individuals have broken their arm and they've continued to fight. Frank Mir against Tim Silva is a good example. But normally when the joint is attacked, the individual wants to give up, and once it's damaged, they really can't effectively use that limb against you anymore, because there's so many pain receptors in the joint that every time they try to use it, they experience intense pain. So let's go ahead and watch how this key lock works. So he's going to slide that arm under, connect his hand, he lifts up and drags down. You may not be able to see her tapping because of the angle, but he's going to connect his hand. Here's a good point. Notice here he's not overlapping the thumb, and that gives you a good flexible grip. It's a good mobile grip. The wrist is straight here, so it's not buckled. That's a good technique. The only mistake he's made here is he's overlapped the thumb on this other hand. It's not saying that he can't use that technique, but it would be a much better grip if he had the thumb over instead of gripping with the thumb. It's a more flexible grip that allows you a lot more freedom, and it's a fairly solid lock. So he's going to lift up here, and he's going to drag those knuckles along the ground. This is essential. Once you get the arm to an angle where it feels like it's starting to lock out, dragging the knuckles on the floor, if you allow those knuckles to come up off the ground, the key lock is not going to be as effective. He could essentially finish that from here and do damage to the joint as long as he drags these knuckles along the ground. Now, some individuals have more range of motion than others. They have more flexibility, and it may take a little longer to lock the joint out. But as long as you keep those knuckles on the ground, you should be successful. And you've got to be real careful applying this in practice, because you can hurt the individual. By the time they start experiencing pain, it may be too late. So you want to do this nice and slow, just as if you were doing some form of static stretching. So he's going to lift up on the elbow, drag the knuckles down, and then that locks out the key lock. Now we're going to go into Kimura from side control. And the advantage of these submissions is the individual on top can attempt these submissions without fear of losing position. Whereas if he went for an arm bar, some forms of chokes from side control, he could potentially lose the position that he's in, or if he went for some sort of leg lock. But by going after a key lock or Kimura, even if the submission fails and he doesn't get it, he's still going to end up on top. so there's not the same level of fear that you would lose position. So you can go after these submissions with a lot of confidence, and it still allows you to hold that good dominant position of side control. So let's go ahead and watch Kimura. Now you're going to notice here Kimura is just the opposite from key lock. Before, the arm was going this way at a right angle. Now it's going down towards the ground. Now typically what will happen is no one's going to give you their arm just like this or have it bend at a right angle. Typically what they do is they reach up here and grab you. So they grab the back of your neck, or they have it off to this other side, and you kind of have to lean across their body and pin it to the ground or catch it and pull it off with your arms. So it's normally not set up like this. I may make another video where I could show you how to set this up on the most common ways an individual is going to move on the ground to allow you to set these submissions up. But Kimura can be caught from standing position, and you end up in this ground with it already locked out. Kimura can be caught from several different positions. So this is just a standard Kimura. So he's going to slide. He's got the arm pinned. Instead of pinning with the arm closest to the head this time, it's just the reverse. He's pinning here. He's got a little bend in his wrist. We don't want that. We actually want that wrist to be a little straighter when you lock this out. But again, he's a student in class. He's just now learning the skill. He's going to slide this other arm underneath. You want to lock the grip in before you shift your weight. You notice he's already kind of shifting his weight up here high. The reason you want to lock it in first is it gives you a good handle, and it allows you to shift to the position you need. So you want to lock it in really before you start shifting your weight so that the individual can't escape this position. So let me go ahead and play the video. So he locks this grip in, and then he slides his weight around. The reason you want to slide your weight up high, and he could actually be a little higher if he wanted to, and that would make it easier for him to get the arm behind the back. You notice how the floor is kind of getting in his way here? If he'll bend this arm less than a 90-degree angle, maybe like 80, 75 degrees or so, bring it in a little bit, he'll have an easier time getting it behind her back. And that's really the focus here on Kimura. Instead of just lifting up and dragging the knuckles along the ground like we did with the key lock, on Kimura we're trying to get this palm to the back of her head. If we get there, we have destroyed the shoulder girdle. It's not going to be useful anymore. So what we're trying to do is, if we can cause her to turn in towards the guy in the blue shirt, it's going to make it much easier for him to get this arm behind the back. That's the reason he may want to go less than a 90-degree angle on this, especially if she's flat on her back when he locks it in. So let's go ahead and play the rest of this. So he's going to lift this in, and she's already tapping, because what this does is it pins his weight up high, allowing her not to roll him over. If he was too low, if most of his weight was down near her stomach or closer to her hips, she could actually roll up on this and reverse the position. So let's go ahead and finish playing this. So he locks the grip in and locks his hands in. Notice here it's less than a 90-degree. That's pretty good technique on the part of the guy in the blue. So he's got his hands locked together, and another good thing I like about his grip this time is he has corrected his grip from the key lock position. Notice how he does not have the thumbs gripping. So this is a good mobile grip, and you can go to a lot of straight arm locks from this. If she was really strong and she could straighten her arm, he could actually use the same grip and just change it a little bit and be able to attack the elbow instead of the shoulder girdle. So let's go ahead and finish this. But that's really good technique on his part. He's got a good solid grip here. He's not gripping with the thumb, and that's going to allow him to have a mobile grip that he can transition from submission to submission without the thumbs getting in the way. And that's it really for key lock. A good solid submission that you can catch from a lot of different positions. So we went over key lock and Kimura. The last one was Kimura. And they're like each other, but they're not the same. You're attacking the same parts of the body, but they're reverse. So they're inverse. The Kimura would be almost like a inverse key lock. So I hope this video was helpful, and I will see you in the next video.